Why is therapy so important? Well, friends, we've got you covered. Today's interview comes straight from our Instagram summer series, and we wanted to bring it right here on YouTube for everyone. Just in case you don't have Instagram, we wanted to make sure it was accessible. Today's message is so special. Christy sits down with our friend Rachael Elmore, licensed Christian therapist and author. They chat all things about motherhood, postpartum, medication, and why Christian therapy can be so vital to a spiritual believer on their journey to freedom. So, if you ever wondered why Christian therapy might help you, check this out.
Fearless friends, hello. Today I'm super pumped because I am going to interview someone that's very special to me. And I'm going to tell you why in just a moment. I'm going to wait for her to get on. But I have a question for all of you. And you can put it in comments. You can tell me how you feel about this. But while we're waiting to grab Rachael, I want to ask you a question. The question is, how do you feel about therapy? How do you feel about getting vulnerable and about sitting down with someone to help you figure out your mess? So just tell me below, how do you feel about therapy? So I'm going to get Rachael on right now, and she's going to hop in. She is going to connect with us, and we're going to talk a little bit about Christian therapy. So Rachael, I don't know. Hi, how are you?
Hi, guys. Oh, it's good to see you today. I'm so excited. Yes, let's do this.
So good. This is so good. I told everybody that you're a special person to me, and this is why. So Rachael and I both set out to write a book. And in this, we decided to join this boot camp that Lisa Turkhorst, you probably know who she is, and Meredith Brock has founded and started. And we knew that at the end of this, I think they said 1,000 people entered this, and 100 people got chosen for this boot camp, and then 2 people got contracts. Two people got contracts. So Rachael and I were both praying and just hoping that this would be the situation that we could get our message out into the world. And guess what? Rachael, my friend Rachael, was one of the 2 people that was chosen for this contract. That is so amazing. So Rachael, how did it feel the moment that they announced it and they said you were the one chosen for this contract?
The most surreal moment, I think, of my life, other than the moment they handed me my baby boy the first time. I mean, it just, I still don't feel like it's totally real. Like, it still feels like this didn't really happen. How could this really be real? I mean, it's got to be the craziest thing that's ever happened to me, for sure, which definitely says something. I am unbelievably humbled, unbelievably honored to have the opportunity that one person reads my book. Nonetheless, maybe hundreds, maybe thousands. And I really do hope that I basically am writing the book that I wish had existed when I was a new mom. In my own anxiety and my own depression and my own struggles as a new mom. So super honored and incredibly honored to get to sit here with you today, Christy. Like, I'm kind of fangirling a little bit. She's kind of a little hero of mine. It's odd to compete for a book contract, but that is what we did. But it's been really neat to see a lot of my friends still go on and still get their messages published, even if they didn't get this particular contract. So very thankful for the work that you're doing too, Christy.
Rachael, I celebrate you. I'm so grateful that you got the contract and that we get to become friends now because of it. That is a really cool thing. So I am cheering you on, and I can't wait to see what God does with this contract. So tell me a little bit about your book. You we're friends, we're kindred spirits, because we believe a lot in how to help women overcome fear and anxiety through this. So tell me about your book. What's it about? When's it coming out?
Well, I don't have a final publication date. My final turn-in date is February 1st. So we're thinking maybe this spring for publication, but I don't have the actual official date yet. We're still working on that. I should have that actually very soon. I should have that final publishing date, but we're thinking this spring. So it will be done February 1st. My book is right now, the title it's a working title, but it's The Emotionally Healthy Mom. And it's all about navigating through that struggle and getting through metamorphosis motherhood and becoming the mom that stands on solid ground and not shifting sands. And it's all about biblically, psychologically, like physically, all of the ways that we have to adjust and completely shifting our identity, completely changing our life and becoming a mom. It is for me, and I did have postpartum depression. The book will cover a lot of stuff with postpartum depression and anxiety and baby blues, but not just that, but just all new moms and how to make this adjustment and how to become a new mom and how to help your friends become new moms and how husbands can help their wives and how mothers can help their daughters as they become new moms. And for me, that was not an easy process. For me, that was a very, very tough process. And I found out after I went through it that I wasn't alone. And even though at the time I was already, I guess, a pretty well-known licensed therapist at the time, I didn't really know how to get the right help to help me to adjust to motherhood, because even though I loved my babies very much, I just didn't love being a mom at the beginning. It was very, very hard. And I also found out through that journey, Christy, that I was not alone, that so many women struggle and so many women struggle with the shame of just whether if it's any sort of depression, anxiety, mental illness, or just honestly motherhood. So it's going to be a bit of a kind of a jack of all trades of a book, but I want to give you guys basically every single therapeutic technique that I have that I've helped about 65,000 people with. I want to be able to hand to each of you, because I can only see 20 people a week, but that I can hand to each of you guys and hopefully, you know, send home with a lot of new moms, just to be able to say, hey, here's everything I wish had been there for me that wasn't out there for me when I became a mom. Because we talk about what to expect when you're expecting. Nobody ever talks about what to expect after you've already expected. And so we're going to do that. I'm going to do that. And I'm going to be nitty gritty. It is probably the most, I'm extremely honest. I'm very bold and I don't hold back. So it will be definitely a tell-all book, but not a tell-all book that's just therapy for me. It's going to be a tell-all book that's going to be therapy for you.
So Rachael, that's fantastic. And you, not only have you been there and done that and walked the walk and have been through the anxiety, been through the depression, postpartum, but you also are a licensed counselor as well.
Yeah.
You have both worlds coming at you. So tell me, why did you become a counselor?
So when I was an undergrad, I love this story. When I was an undergrad, Christy, I was an HR major originally. And my mom, I remember, she's a very spiritually wise woman. She was like, Rachael, like, I can't see you really doing that. And, you know, I really struggled with it. I kind of thought about just majoring in communications. And I'd always deep down, since I was 5 years old, strangers would come up to me and just be like, I'm really thinking about divorce. Like, it was the most bizarre thing. It still happens everywhere I go. A complete stranger, and my husband will just laugh, will just say, I'm really struggling with this. And so God kind of planted those seeds early on. My struggle was, I don't want to go to school for 8 years and obviously spend a lot of money on a lot of education. But when I was in my undergrad, I went through a very bad breakup with a guy that we were about to get engaged. And it was very, very ugly. And I woke up one morning and I couldn't get out of bed. And it was like there was bricks on all my body. And I called my mom, because that's all I knew to do at the moment. I was at my apartment. I went to NC State, for any NC State fans out there. And I was like, I can't get out of bed. She was like, you're going to go see a counselor. And I went to see a Christian counselor. And I remember, I think it was the first session I sat with her, and I was like, this is what I'm meant to do. Like, this is what God made my bones to do. And God made my hands and my brain and my heart to do this. And so, you know, it was very quick. I mean, it was within a few months I started feeling better and all of that. But, you know, it's kind of that classic story of I received that help. And then I was like, I want to help other women and men and other couples and other teens, and especially now moms, in the way that I received the help. So that's how I became a counselor. And that's how I ended up changing my major. And I guess the rest is history.
So the pain just led you to purpose, which God is just so faithful in doing stuff. But why Christian counseling? Why Christian counseling? Why did you enter the Christian counseling arena when you could have just said, hey, I'm just going to be a licensed therapist. I'm just going to do that. I'm not going to put Christian on the front of it. Walk me through that.
So, you know, all the tools and techniques that I use are the exact same, pretty much, tools and techniques that any secular therapist would use. It's really not that different in that way, but there's this big difference when it comes to we use all the same techniques and tools and theories. However, there's this big thing, and if you could draw a line, and maybe I should have a dry erase board behind me, but if you could draw a line, with theory to therapy, which equals health, there's this big thing that above theory matters, is truth, all caps, of what God says about us. And there's nothing wrong with seeing a secular therapist per se. I personally would not, because I need someone to understand that when I'm talking about hearing from God, that maybe I'm not a paranoid schizophrenic. I need people that understand how important my faith is to me. I need a therapist that understands it's not my job I'm not a pastor per se. I'm a counselor. But I need somebody to understand how my sin struggles impact me and not just tell me to do what feels good. And that's the biggest thing. And definitely don't want to hurt anybody's feelings on here. This is a secular therapist. There are lots of great secular therapists out there that have taught me a lot. And there's a lot of secular therapists that are Christians. But it is so important of that whole do what feels good mentality. That's why, because I do not tell people to do what feels good. There's times I do, but the majority of the time I'm like, you don't do what feels good. You do what is right. And then you will feel good because God will honor that and God will be glorified. So that's why.
Woo! Truth and theory. That will preach right there. And that, honestly, what sets you free? Truth. Truth. God's word is very clear about that. Truth sets you free. So we have to couple truth and theory. Rachel, that is so beautiful. Okay, so for those of you watching, many of you know this. I had a nervous breakdown in 2011 after I was diagnosed with severe panic and anxiety disorder. It was so severe, friends, that I had back-to-back panic attacks for 3 weeks. I could not leave my bedroom. Hair was falling out of my head. I was incredibly sick, heart palpitations. It was the worst panic anxiety that I did not think I was going to make it out. It all started when I was on vacation. What a lot of people don't understand is when you take time to rest, when your body is already in fight or flight mode, rest is looked like as a threat in the body. So that's how panic and anxiety started when I was just resting on the sunny beaches of Cancun. So, Rachel, my question to you is, for so long, anytime I would get on a plane, no matter if it's vacation or work or whatever, I would be triggered. I would be triggered. Anxiety, and it was so difficult, and I actually backed off of traveling for a really long time because I was so afraid of fear. I was so afraid of anxiety. I was so afraid of the next panic attack, and anybody that's ever had a panic attack, they know how debilitating and scary they are. So what advice would you give to someone right now that's in the middle of it, that is so afraid of their next panic attack? They're so afraid of fear. What practical tips and maybe spiritual tips could you give them to help them overcome that?
Yeah, I got you, girl. And hey, it takes one to know one. I've had 2 panic attacks, major ones. And I've obviously had anxiety attacks before, but I've had 2 major panic attacks where I literally thought I was dying before. And, luckily I did have some tools. Luckily I did have a therapist lined up already. I will always be in therapy. Every great therapist has a therapist. Never forget that. But with that being said, it is so important to understand that statistically 7 out of 10 people at some point in their life have a full-fledged panic attack. Okay. It's actually not that uncommon. And that typically in a panic attack, your brain loses a bunch of oxygen. And what we do is we hold our breath. We go, or we go. And so in that moment, I know it's so cheesy to say just breathe, and that's not the answer to everything, but it's important to say to yourself when you start to have panic symptoms is my brain needs oxygen. I need to breathe. I need to breathe. And that's one of the first things that we do. But after we have that first panic attack, the biggest thing that precedes the second panic attack is fear of the panic attack. So what do? We deal with the fear. We deal with the fear of the panic attack. We accept that we're probably going to have at least one panic attack in our lifetime. Acceptance of that fact is key. The Bible says that when Jesus saw the cross, when he knew what was about to happen, we don't know he had a panic attack, but we know that he felt some anxiety. That blows my mind. So what we know right there, okay, so Jesus never sinned. Jesus saw the cross and felt anxious. Anxiety is not a sin. And so a lot of times people equate anxiety with worry. And the way I'm talking about anxiety is different. I'm talking about the biological and psychological response to fear and stimuli and triggers like you're talking about. But the biggest thing that brings the second panic attack or the third is the fear of the panic attack. So what do we have to do? We have to learn to not be afraid of it. We have to learn not to be afraid of it. We have to learn about the warning signs. We have to learn when we're at a 4 on a scale of 1 to 10, a 10 being a full-fledged panic attack, we need to know what to do when we're at a 6. We need to do, and what we do is we gradually expose ourselves to triggers. And we a lot of times need to do that with the help of somebody like me, somebody that's licensed that can carefully stair step you up to the feared stimuli. But what we don't do is we don't just avoid, because that's hard. We avoid in the meantime while we get our nervous system under control, while we get our souls back under control, while we get everything feeling better. We do avoid for a season, but then we start to reintroduce the things that we're afraid of. But honestly, to make a very complicated issue very simple, what we do is we learn to not be afraid of the panic attack. And I am glad I'm not, but I'm glad I've had one, because I saw spots. I literally thought I'm having a stroke. I remember telling my husband, I'm dying. Like, I think I'm dying. And I wouldn't wish that on anybody. I wouldn't wish that feeling on anybody. But it helps that when I start to feel panic symptoms, to tell myself this is normal. You need to breathe. You need to take a walk. You need to do all of these things. I have lists and lists and lists of things. I write my own. I have notepads written all around my office of things I need to do the moment I feel anxious. And so I need to know thyself. So once I'm at a 4 or a 5 on a scale of 1 to 10 of severity, you don't want to wait till you're at an 8, because that does get really difficult just with the nervous system. To be able to bring you back down is very, very challenging. Not that it can't be done, but it's very challenging. And to know that I've had so many clients, thousands, that have had one panic attack and have never had a second if they deal with the fact that they're afraid of the panic attack.
Oh. So one of the keys is to learn to not be afraid of the fear, and you walk them through this. And so you need someone that is trained and is a professional to be able to do such a thing. I know that when I get into those moments, when they've hit me full blown, I will say, this too shall pass. This too shall pass.
Mm-hmm. I love that.
Like I made it through all of those panic attacks. And I think the statistics are pretty high. You're not going to die of a panic attack. And I think that we get so afraid of the fear that it is difficult to realize our minds. It's like it tricks us. Like, you're never going to make it out of here. Like, it's like you can't hear truth when you're in the panic. You can't. It's so bad, which leads me to my next question. And I think is so important. So you said once you're at an 8 or a 9, it's really hard for the nervous system to actually get out of it. So I was in full-blown severe panic and anxiety disorder, and I could not get out of the panic. No matter what I tried, no matter what I did, it just didn't stop. Doctor told me I needed medication. I had to have medication to be able to get out of this. This was a hard, literal pill for me to swallow. I needed medication to get better. And I struggled with that. I struggled with that so bad. Talk to the person right now who's been told, just like I was, you need medication to get you better. And who also has faith that God could supernaturally heal you. What would you tell that person that was struggling with, should I take the medicine? Should I not take the medicine?
So obviously I have a lot of opinions on this. I've been on medication before twice for my postpartum depression after I had my babies. And it was wild. It was like within 3 weeks, the sky was bluer. The birds were chirping. Like I had hope. I wasn't afraid to pick up my screaming son. I wasn't afraid that somehow I was going to inadvertently hurt him. I was able to stop the bad thoughts. I was able to calm. The anxiety was still there, but I was able to recognize it and put tools into place to bring it back down. You guys, sometimes people need medicine. And I've written about this in my book, and she's fine with me sharing about this. My mother-in-law, my wonderful mother-in-law, has a rare form of type 1 diabetes. It's a late onset type 1 diabetes. And, she needs an insulin pump to stay alive. And this girl is more active than me. I mean, she, is so healthy and takes great care of herself and manages her diet and exercise and does great. But hitting, type 1 diabetes, if she didn't have her insulin pump, she would go blind, she would lose a limb, and then she would eventually slip away. It's hard to say it out loud, but like we would lose her. And I am so thankful for Sir Frederick Banting, actually was the discoverer and who synthesized insulin. I am so thankful in 1922 that he figured that out so that my mother-in-law is alive today, because she wouldn't be. And that's one example. I would really challenge the church or any person that told my mother-in-law that she wasn't praying hard enough, that her insulin pump wasn't, you don't need that. You must really be having a faith struggle. To call a mental illness really a mental illness is like calling a broken femur a leg disease. It's not a leg disease, it's a disease. And to be able to say the fact that at the end of the day, I know this is a bold statement, but if the medication works, then the problem wasn't solely spiritual. I understand that God is mighty and he can heal a tumor, he can heal diabetes, he can heal anything. But never does God claim that the Bible is completely exhaustive in the fact that it's supposed to cure illness, vaccinations, whatever it might be. The Bible never claims these things. The Bible claims to be a complete work for how we're supposed to be holy and follow Jesus. The Bible never claims to be a concordance for how to treat illness. Obviously, we walk into this with medication with complete faith to know that he can. And sometimes he chooses. For me, it was a huge act of faith to swallow that pill. For me, I swallowed my pride by swallowing a little pill. And for me, I know, and this isn't for everybody, but working in mental health, it was so powerful to be able to take medicine and be like, wow, that really helped me survive. And it really humbled me. And God really showed me his might through a little tiny white pill that I took for a couple of years after both my babies were born.
So I'm so grateful for your boldness, and thank you for your ability with that, and the truth and theory and all of that. I am very open to the fact that I was on Celexa and Boost Bar and Xanax when I was going through the darkest moments of my life. God chose not to supernaturally heal me in that. It was a process, but through the process, he showed me his promises. And I am off of anxiety and depression medicine right now.
Nice.
So grateful for the time that I was on it, because now I am spiritually and physically healed up of severe panic and anxiety disorder. That label does not claim who I am. It was something I struggled with, but it's not something that I am anymore. Now, do I still have trials? Do I still have moments where I have panic and anxiety? Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. But that deep, dark time that I went through is now the process and the pain that helps lead other people to healing. So Rachael, same as for you. You went through the darkness, and now you're out helping so many people. How can we find you? How can we reach you? How can we connect with you, Rachael?
Well, it's so I'm at the Authored Therapist on Instagram. I'm on Facebook. I'm at Rachael Elmore, author and therapist. I'm also RachelElmore.com, and it's RACHAEL. Most everyone misspells it. It's okay, but RachelElmore.com. It's really easy to find me. Google me. You'll be able to follow, especially on Instagram. I post pretty regularly. Every tool, especially a lot of times I'll have sessions where 5 or 6 sessions. They're all struggling with the same issue, and I'll go and write something because I'm like, okay, I want to share this with everybody. I want to be able to give away this stuff for free because I can only see so many people a week. So how about I use these tools and be able to help you guys? So you can follow along with my journey. I post a lot about my writing. I post a lot of silly reels too, just to be able to make everybody laugh, but also hopefully give you guys a lot of value and just free tips and hacks and ways to live your life. And so really, the Authored Therapist is a good way to find me. And it's, I would love and be honored to have all of you on my team. It's every time I have a like or a follow, I legit am completely honored and blown away by each and every one. And just to be able to have the opportunity to share what God has shared with me, with all of you.
Well, Rachael, the Fearless Tribe is cheering you on. We're excited about
Thank you.
out in the contract, and we're not done yet, sister, are we? I feel like we need to do maybe on TikTok. We need to do some more interviews on Facebook and just team up together to help bring freedom. So Rachael, thank you for being here today. Fearless Family, I hope that you go and follow Rachael. And I'm so grateful for your time. Bye.
Thank you as well. Thanks, Christy. Bye-bye.
I really hope that you enjoyed this video. Please be sure to comment, like, and subscribe. We can't wait to bring you more fearless content.